From Greater Sandton and beyond, get ready for the Sandton Times Hour
with your host,
Alexander.
Ladies and gentlemen, everyone in between and beyond, welcome to the Sandton Times Hour. It's edition 215. It's week 40 of 2025. And welcome to the show. I'm Alexander Leibner. And if you're listening for the very first time, well, a very special welcome to you. And if you're a regular listener, well, you know what to do and you know where to do it. If you're listening on air or online, in Johannesburg or Pretoria, across Gauteng, across South Africa, or across the world, I'm happy to report that all is well in Sandton land. And joining me once again in studio is Vincenzo, back behind the mixing desk. And if my math's correct, Vincenzo, we're about 12 weeks out from the end of the year. That's exactly 3 months. And we're into 2026. Pretty wild, eh? Before you know it, this last quarter is just going to fly by. And we're going to be sitting in January looking at a whole new year. But it's been a very relaxed week this past week with Heritage Day slowing down the city completely. And a few things happening here and there. Like Nintendo. They had their big launch at Sandton City of the new EAFC 26 game. And for those people who know what that is, well, you know what that means. Anything for the soccer lovers. They can play soccer now on the Switch 2. And I gave it a bit of a spin. And yeah, I mean, it's got its crowd. It has its audience. I'm more of a classic person myself. I enjoy a bit of Mario Brothers and Donkey Kong and all those Nintendo classics. But for those who are into a bit of football and a bit of sport, well, there's a weekend's worth of entertainment there, let me tell you. Also checked into the Maslow to try out a couple of their new things, some set menus, some of the new spa treatments at their spa, and also they also have a fabulous picnic that they do on a Sunday. So all is going well at the Maslow in Sandton, let me tell you. It's worth checking out if you're looking for a bit of a break from all the hustle and bustle of regular life. Well, what are we going to cover in the next hour, you might ask? Well, in a bit, I'll be chatting to an entrepreneur and author of a new book that'll have you asking better questions when it comes to making business decisions. Take a listen for that. Then I'll be prompting those creative juices as the end of the year holiday period is in sight, and many have probably not given their break a second thought. Stick around for that. As always, then I catch up with our regular entertainment commentator to chat all things entertainment, and we look at what's worth a watch and what isn't. And finally, we catch up with a Sandton-based elite personal trainer about getting ready for summer and a great walk you can join to kickstart things. You won't want to miss that. All this and more coming up, and I always like to hear from you. So if you'd like to get in touch, you can do so by sending through your questions, comments, and feedback to editor@sandtontimes.co.za. You can connect on social media at Sandton Times, hop onto the website sandtontimes.co.za, or add the WhatsApp number to your phone 084 Sandton. That's 084 726 3866. 084 726 3866. And if you're not part of the podcast community yet, be sure to subscribe to the Sandton Times Hour on all leading digital platforms. Now also on YouTube podcasts as of this week. You can catch the Sandton Times Hour on YouTube podcasts as well. But also Apple, Spotify, Amazon, AfriPod's Podcast Party, and so much more. And be sure to share, like, and subscribe.
You're listening to the Sandton Times Hour.
So my first guest is a man who's no stranger to shaking things up in business and beyond. Mike Stopforth is a serial entrepreneur, speaker, facilitator, and the author of a new book launching this week titled 52 Big Questions for Business Leaders. Over the past 2 decades, Mike has worked with thousands of leaders, helping them navigate the messy middle of change with clarity, confidence, and yes, occasional dad jokes. He's also the founder of consulting firm Beyond Binary, co-founder of crisis consultancy 48 Hours, and a man who has built Cerebra into Africa's leading social media agency before selling it to WPP. Before that, well, he was involved in a whole bunch of things, including Afrigator, one of Africa's most major content aggregation platforms, which was acquired by Naspers. And now Mike is turning his attention to something deceptively simple but deeply powerful, asking better questions. His new book, 52 Big Questions for Business Leaders, doesn't just promise a silver bullet or magical formula. Instead, it's a practical tool set to design and to provoke reflection, shift perspectives, and ultimately elevate leadership. If you're in Johannesburg on Tuesday, the 30th of September, well, you can join Mike at the Thrice in Kramerville for the official launch of the book in Johannesburg. Expect to leave with more questions than you arrived with, and according to Mike, that's exactly the point. So with that, Mike Stopforth, great to have you on the Sandton Times Hour.
Thanks for having me on the show, Alex. It's lovely to chat.
Mike, your book is all about questions. Why do you think leaders today need more questions than they need answers?
Yeah, Alex, I think that there's two ways to answer that. One is to talk about the internal world of the leader and how so many leaders have been bred, born, trained into believing that they need to be right about everything and that their authority translates directly from their opinion. And I think what I'm learning more and more is that the self-aware leader, the leader who's willing to critique their own view of the world, who's willing to be humble, open, and receptive to different views and different possibilities, is the kind of leader that I think positions us for a world that feels, even if it isn't objectively so, but feels more and more unpredictable and more uncertain all the time, which is the second way to view it, is that in a world that is unpredictable and uncertain and I think complex in many respects, binary, polarized, simplistic thinking only gets us so far. The kinds of leaders that thrive in this context and that we need to thrive as humanity, as society, and as organizations, I think need to be more nuanced, need to be more considered. And this book is a practical tool set for exactly those types of people.
Do you feel that most business leaders aren't prepared to ask the questions because they're not prepared to accept the answers?
Actually, I think that most business leaders are prepared to ask questions. However, we've refined the art, and I include myself in this category, we've refined the art of asking questions that we already know the answers to, or the answers to which reinforce thinking we already had. So I think the challenge is not so much just asking questions. Questions are easy to ask, and we ask them all the time. It's a specific category of question. It's a depth of question that is a skill set in its own right, because it opens one up to possibilities one might not have considered. It challenges legacy thinking and assumptions, and it also opens one up to being wrong or being proved wrong. And I think the skill in asking some of those questions is a highly underrated tool set for modern business leaders.
You've navigated through a series of businesses that you've built and sold and done so very successfully. What would you say is the question or questions that guided you personally through some of those journeys?
Thank you, Alex. It's very kind of you. There have been many, of course. Some of the ones that stand out would be questions like, what would need to be true for me to change my mind about this? Why would good people leave our business? What would my company look like if I built it from scratch today? These are some of the questions that have helped and sometimes even haunted me during that journey. Each one of them has been a gift from different sources in my life, sometimes individuals, sometimes books that I've read, sometimes even movies that I've watched. And because they've been such a gift for me, I was really motivated and excited about gathering together hundreds of the most interesting and provocative questions I've ever been asked, curating them into a package, if you like, of 52 questions, 52 weeks in the year. And then from there, what we did was categorize the questions into topical sections. So there are questions that are related to leadership and vision. There are questions that are related to people and culture, strategy and innovation, self-improvement. The idea being that this is perhaps not the book you want to pick up and read from start to finish, front to back, although I'd love it if you did. But it is also the book that you can dip into with your team in a strategy session, in a facilitation session, as an icebreaker for a big meeting. There's many different ways that it can be used practically to open up thinking and in turn open up possibility.
Is there a particular question that has stood out from the people that you've shared this book with so far that maybe has surprised you or that has really resonated with people so far?
Yeah, there's one that seems to stop a lot of people in their tracks. And it's a question that I unapologetically stole from a reel, actually, that I saw on Instagram, where this person asked a question actually about life, which I translated into business. And the question was, if your life could be divided into chapters titled before and after, what would be the event that separated the two and why? And I thought, wow, that's a really interesting question to ask through a business lens as well. If your business's journey, your business's life, its entire span from inception to now could be divided into before and after, what would the moment be, the event be, the occurrence be that divides the two, and why would it be so significant?
What can people expect from the event that you're going to be hosting in Johannesburg? What will the event sort of bring to the table that they might not be able to pick up in the book?
Yeah, great. So, Alex, Mark Sham and the Suits and Sneakers community have been very, very generous in hosting me at the Tryst in Carmel. It's a beautiful space. It's a beautiful networking space. We already have over 250 people registered for the event, so we're expecting it to be a really well-attended event. Unlike the Cape Town book launch, which was very intimate and a little bit more kind of conversational, this is going to be slightly more structured. There will be a snippet of a keynote presentation that I'm giving around the power of questions for modern leaders. I will be interviewed by the lovely Nyari Samoshonga from We Think Code, who is a formidable entrepreneur in her own right, and a dear friend. And then I imagine Mark will probably top and tail it with some points from the Suits and Sneakers community, but there will be books there. The exclusive books team is going to be on site. There's going to be all the other trappings of an event such as this. And I'm sure there will be a couple of book signings as well.
Well, Mike, before I let you go, what is the big question you're asking yourself right now as you let your leadership journey evolve?
For me, it's very specific, Alex. I find myself at an interesting inflection point in my mid-40s, in that panini press experience that many people my age have, where you are simultaneously dealing with the pressures of your children growing older and your parents growing older. And I guess one of the big questions I've been asking is, what do I want the next 5 years to look like so that my 50s are a decade of rich personal relationship building, of great experiences, and while I'm still young, having opportunities to engage in a really qualitative and memorable way with the people that matter most to me.
Super exciting and as well as super deep. Mike Stopforth, his new book launching at the Thrist, Crammerville, 52 Big Questions for Business Leaders. Tickets available through Quicket. More details will be up on the Sandton Times website if you didn't get all of that. And Mike, thank you for making the time to chat.
Thanks, Alex. Always a pleasure to chat.
You're listening to the Sandton Times Hour.
So as highlighted in the beginning of the show, we are rapidly speeding towards the end of the year. And if you haven't started planning or thinking about your year-end holiday, well, now might be the right time to start thinking about it if it's not too late already. So I thought, let's take a look back at the past 12 months of some of the Sandton Times' travels, and to get your Wanderlust heightened, call it a bit of inspiration based off some first-hand experiences in a sort of rapid-fire format, because there's quite a bit to get through. So let's have a quick look here. So first city out of the hat is Dubai, and it's a blend of futuristic skyscrapers, luxury malls, desert adventures, and world-class dining, and it is the ultimate stopover turned destination. I know a lot of South Africans love flying Emirates, and they've just launched their premium economy offering, as well as some of their upgraded 777s this past week. And this might be a good opportunity for you to either make it a stopover or make it a destination on its own. It's great to visit now during the cooler months from November to March. It's much easier to have an outdoor experience like desert safaris or rooftop lounges. So it's a really great time to head over to Dubai as the temperatures are in your favor. The next out of the hat is Victoria, which is in the Seychelles, a very laid-back island. We've spoken about the Seychelles quite a bit this year. You know it for its turquoise waters, powdery beaches, and its Creole charm, making it one of those paradises you have to visit. And a hot tip there is that you don't have to just stay on the main island, which is Mahe. You can hop across to Praline or one of the other islands like Ladigue. Some beautiful, beautiful beaches. I mean, Ladigue is also fantastic because most people on Ladigue cycle around, not many cars. So it's got that very sort of nostalgia of yesteryear going for it. And also, no costly visas for South Africans, and it's a 4-hour flight. So that's one to consider. Let's have a look what's coming out of the hat next is Venice in Italy, a living museum on water. It's one of those places that a lot of people said, I have to see before I die. If it's an enchanting gondola ride or maybe a coffee on St. Mark's Square, and all the history and romance that you can find in the alleyways of Venice, it is certainly one of those places you do want to put onto your bucket list. If it's not for this coming holiday, it's definitely for a future holiday. And it's great if you can get up early in the morning as a hot tip and explore the city when it's not busy, when you haven't got those crowds, those cruise ships, those tourist buses filling the corridors of Venice per se. And you can get around on a speedboat or on a water taxi. And it is just also just one of those places that is just absolutely magical. Going down the list, Madrid in Spain, also just a capital that buzzes with tapas bars, world-class art museums, flamenco, and for those football lovers, of course, the home of Real Madrid. And it's got a very vibrant nightlife, and it is just one of those cities that is just absolutely awesome. I think it's always great to plan when you go to places like Spain because people's eating culture in every city is a bit different, and you'll know the Spanish to eat a very, very late dinner. So don't expect to be going for dinner at 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening. No, you might be going rather at 9 or 10 p.m. So make sure that you plan your meals carefully if you ever plan to visit Spain, because you don't want to be stuck hungry on the side of the road. Next up on the list is London, a city that we have, I think, a very close relationship with in England, a city of theatre, shopping, royal pageantry, and cultural treasures. And it's just something that every traveler should put on their list of places to visit. And one great thing about it is that they have the most epic public transport system. I mean, if you want to see a public transport system that operates, I mean, if it's buses, the underground, you can get from one side of the city to the other in next to nothing. And they've got this really cool thing called an Oyster card. Contactless, tap and go, affordable, seamless access, and you can use the tube and buses and get around the city seamlessly. Not a cheap destination to go to, mind you, but certainly one that you need to add to your list of places to visit. And I'm sure magical this time of the year as we head into the festive season. And talking about magical and festive season, well, there can only be one other city that comes to mind, and that is Paris. If you've seen that Eiffel Tower light up at 10 o'clock at night with all its sparkles, I mean, it doesn't get more romantic than that. Or you might want to grab a coffee in Montmartre, or feast on one of the many patisseries and places that sell baguettes and all kinds of delicious French food. There's also the art and, of course, the effortless style that is Parisian culture. One thing I can suggest if you are planning to head to that part of the world is to book any major attractions well in advance. I mean, if you think about the Louvre or the Eiffel Tower, you need to make sure that you're booking that right now, because you don't want to get to December and realize that you're about to climb onto your Air France flight and you haven't booked any of these, because you are going to be sitting in notoriously long queues if you're even able to get into some of these attractions. Another really cool destination to check out is Hong Kong. It's a dazzling fusion of East and West, and Hong Kong is just an overnight flight away. I mean, if you take a direct flight with the likes of Cathay Pacific, well, you can get there. And once again, for South Africans, no costly visas, which is really great. And it really does give you a great insight into Asia. It's a beautiful city, lots going on if you're into tech, if you're into Asian food, if you're into just the hustle and bustle of an Asian city. Hong Kong is just an absolute vibe, and a really cool tip there. So if you take one of the ferries that cross the Victoria Harbour at night, you can see some of the amazing light shows and also get a fantastic shot of the skyline at a bargain price instead of having to fork out huge amounts of cash. And talking about forking out huge amounts of cash, Zurich in Switzerland, known for its lakes, luxury shopping, and of course its proximity to the Swiss Alps, is also just one of those amazing places to visit. It might be just an overnight stop or a 2-night stop, but once again, an amazing public transport system. Just second to none. And you can also visit some museums free if you get yourself a Zurich card, so you get access to the public transport and the museums, and you get to see a bit of Zurich on a budget. It really is just one of those cities you just have to see, and it just is an eye-opener. Then, more on a local front, Cape Town, a world-class city right on our doorstep, and it's got the fabulous beaches, vineyards, Table Mountain, and of course, there's just so much happening in Cape Town all the time, so many developments. And if you're a bit of a foodie, make sure you really explore some of those incredible dining options in Cape Town, because at a fraction of a price of what you would probably pay in any other city around the world, you are getting quality in barrels. And it's just top notch. And once again, you don't need a visa, even though it feels like you're visiting another country. And finally, if none of these things sound like a vibe, well, why not check out a cruise? And a cruise is just such a great thing to consider. I know we've spoken about some of the cruises on Norwegian Cruise Line extensively on the show. And if you haven't managed to catch those, go into the podcast archive and you'll be able to take a listen. It's a floating resort experience. Imagine checking into a hotel that moves around, and you've got tons of dining options. There's great entertainment. There's some exotic stops, and you don't have to unpack multiple times. You unpack once, and you can spend 3 days, 7 days, 12 days, however long you decide. But I do suggest, if you are going to book one, book a balcony cabin, because apart from the views of the sea, when you arrive at different ports, and also, just out on a normal sea day, it's worth the upgrade, because you just have that little bit of fresh air, a little bit of privacy, and a little bit of place to just sit and switch off. So there you have it, a couple of options, a couple of ideas to get the ball rolling on your vacation planning. Each promises a unique blend of culture, adventure, and indulgence, ensuring that your next holiday isn't just a break, but an experience worth remembering. And it might not be something that happens right away. It might be something that you put some money towards, or you work towards, or you just put on that dream board and think about it. It might be happening sooner than you think.
You're listening to the Sandton Times Hour.
As we head into the second half of the Sandton Times Hour, my name is Alexander Leipner. If there's anything that sounded good during the show, but you didn't get all the details, you forgot to write it down, or you just didn't have time to write it down, you can hop onto the website, check out the show notes for this week's edition on sandtontimes.co.za, and get a detailed breakdown, additional links, some additional reading, maybe some trailers, whatever it is that you're looking for. It'll hopefully all be on there and a bit more. Also, be sure to check out the Sandton Times on social media at Sandton Times, and hop onto the WhatsApp line, the exclusive WhatsApp line, 084 Sandton, that's 084 726 3866, and feel free to send through your voice notes, text messages, and so much more. That's the exclusive Sandton Times WhatsApp number, 084 Sandton. It's time to connect with Tat Wolfen, our regular entertainment commentator. And Tat, I believe you had a chance to watch one of the movies we spoke about last week.
Yeah, you may remember that last week I said to you that there's a movie coming up directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, and Paul Thomas Anderson's movies I found that I either love or hate, but I'm very rarely, down the middle. So I went in to see One Battle After Another, which has opened this past weekend, and I'm afraid to say that I found it to be the most obnoxious, intrusive, and morally bereft movie that I've seen in a long, long time. It glamorizes crime and terrorism and anarchy, while it demonizes law enforcement, and it pushes racially divisive narratives. Dude, it so irritated me, and it was loud and unsubtle. You know how when someone gets aggressive and in your face and you want to push them back?
Oh, wow.
Well, yeah.
So not a good night out at the movies, clearly.
No. After 50 minutes, I pushed it back by walking out of the theater. One Battle After Another, was a foul and offensive assault on the senses.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, what a start to this week's chat. But I believe there was also a big announcement by ESPN and Disney Plus this week. What was that all about?
Well, that I actually found quite exciting and interesting, despite the fact that I'm not really a sports fan.
Okay.
Disney Plus is now going to be carrying ESPN, which is the American sporting franchise. They're going to be carrying ESPN and ESPN2, which are linear ESPN channels that run on DSTV currently. And they're also going to be running an ESPN highlights channel. So the ESPN highlights platform will run like the rest of most streaming channels, which is where you go in and you see something interesting, like, last week's so-and-so boxing match or whatever it is, and you can click on that and watch it. Whereas ESPN and ESPN2 are actually linear channels. In other words, they run like good old-fashioned TV. On Wednesday at 3:00, you get this kind of thing. And ESPN runs a lot of more esoteric sporting stuff. I'm not sure whether they carry Tiddlywinks championships, but the more sort of out there sports that aren't like the big sports. But ESPN2 carries the big American sports, things such as the football league and the baseball league.
Basketball as well, I think.
All those kinds of those sports, which I think the main reason why South Africans aren't really fans of those sports is that they haven't really had TV access to those sports. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think this is going to broaden that access. And although I've said to you I'm not a sporting fan, I've always had a fascination with baseball, and I used to play it as a lightie. So I'm very excited that now I'll be able to follow the Major League Baseball season, although this is quite wicked for me, quite sad, because the ESPN stuff comes online on Disney Plus from October 2nd, and the Major League Baseball season ends 28th of September. So I'll have to be patient when it comes to that.
But now,
I'll have to wait till next year, March.
But now, do you think this is going to be enough of an attraction? Because obviously it's sport. Like you said, it's quite a specific sport, your NFLs and your NBAs and all those kind of American sports leagues. Is this going to be enough to move the needle to get people to sign up for Disney Plus? I mean, unless you're really into, I think it's the Arabian Soccer League or some of these very sort of niche sports?
Well, the more niche ones, as I say, I think will be playing mainly on ESPN.
Okay.
But I still think, though, that I think if you're a sporting fan, this now gives you a wider selection. And I know that recently we've had those matches, those games. I'm never sure of the technology with, whether it's boxing or rugby, you've got to say a match or a game or whatever. We've recently had the big things with the All Blacks and the Springboks and all that kind of stuff, right? But then there are these gaps, these holes where you don't have the big Springbok matches, where sports fans still want to be able to sit there with a bowl of nachos or popcorn in front of them and their beer and follow sports. So I think this is going to really broaden the menu of what people have to watch. And I do think that by making these things more accessible to South African audiences, I think that more and more South Africans will start getting turned on by those more American sports. And I think they'll start watching those as well. And as a matter of interest, the ESPN channels do show rugby. And I was quite unaware of the fact that there are all sorts of rugby leagues that are not the standard ones that we know about. And it's not the Springbok season where they're playing those matches. You might go, oh, this is cool.
Right.
There's another rugby league that's going. I think that it's a bonus for sporting fans. And, if even I'm kind of excited about it and I'm not a sporting fan, then I think it will turn more people onto Disney Plus. I really believe that.
Well, listen, talking about all things small screen entertainment, I mean, the other big news this past few days has been the takeover of Canal Plus of MultiChoice, which is the big French multimedia company now having fully taken over South Africa's MultiChoice after, I think it's 3 or 4 decades of operation. And I mean, that's going to certainly have some impact on DSTV subscriptions, Showmax. I mean, we're not quite sure exactly what needle this is going to move, but now with this new team coming in and a new ownership model, this can potentially mean some good things.
I think it's really good news, because I think the problem with DSTV is that it has been a monopoly for decades, right? So they haven't really been flexible. They haven't really, because they've had no need to be, right? Because they pretty much the only game in town. Yes, there's also Top TV, sorry, it's called Starsat now, right? Is really small in comparison to DSTV. So they've kind of just been the big bully boys in town, if I may say so. And whereas Canal Plus has had to compete, on the European and UK markets. So I think they're a lot more agile. I think they will bring good things to the table, but I think that DSTV will become more streamlined. And I think that also DSTV is realizing that they can't stick to those satellite dishes anymore. I know that they have already started going into more of a hybrid thing.
Yeah.
Which is also a good thing for consumers, because if you move to a new apartment, you don't have to worry about getting a dish put up and all that kind of nonsense. So, but I think generally in terms of management and efficiency and also having access to a great number of studios, which DSTV does have to a large degree, I guess. But I just think, being as they come from a more competitive market, that they will bring their knowledge and flexibility to DSTV.
Yeah.
So I think it's really good news.
Well, look, it's certainly going to be interesting. I think they're also going to be coming with euros and with a different investment bank account. So surely it'll hopefully have some impact on the content. And look, who knows? We're going to have to sit back and see what happens. But another interesting development in terms of television is that MasterChef South Africa is now moving to ETV, having been initially on Mnet. I think then it moved over to SABC for a bit, and now they've announced that they're moving it to ETV. So that's certainly also an interesting development.
Well, I know, Alex, that you're a bit of a foodie, and one of my sons is also very big on the chef's programs. So I have to say respectfully that I've never followed MasterChef. It means nothing to me. But, one man's MasterChef is another man's baseball, I guess.
So true, but we're going to be keeping an eye on that and a lot of the other things we spoke about this week. But Tat, our times are up, and we're going to be chatting again next week.
Look forward to it. Cheers, Alex.
You're listening to the Sandton Times Hour.
With summer 2025 just around the corner, many of us are thinking about trading in the winter layers for swimsuits and sunnier days. But how do you actually get your body and mind in shape for the season ahead? Joining me in a minute is someone who knows all about discipline, transformation, and what it takes to make fitness a lifestyle. Jaydene is an elite personal trainer at Virgin Active Collection and also a double NPC wellness champion. And she's just weeks away from stepping onto stage herself at her next bodybuilding competition, which is around the corner in December. And beyond the stage, she's passionate about helping people feel their best, whether that's through structured gym workouts or just simple habits like walking. And she tackles the myths around summer bodies. She's here to share practical advice, motivation, and maybe even some insider tips from the world of bodybuilding to help you feel confident as summer rolls in. And Jaydene, it's good to have you on the Sandton Times Hour.
Hi, Alex, and all your listeners. Thank you so much for having me on your show. Very excited to be here.
Jaydene, good to have you. And listen, summer's around the corner, and I'm sure you've got tons of people asking you, how do I get into shape quickly? So what's your piece of advice for someone starting their journey roundabout now?
I would say definitely start now. Don't wait. Summer is literally around the corner. We are in spring already. I think number one would be to set a realistic goal, but also an attainable goal. So be more specific with your goals. I want to lose 2.5 kilograms by the end of the month. That keeps you a little bit more accountable. A lot of people give up after 2 weeks because they don't have a six-pack. So set realistic little goals and then keep yourself accountable to that. If you want to lose a kilogram a week, rather than saying I'm going to lose 10 kilograms or I just want to get fit, it's a bit vague and there's no deadline. 2 would be to create a bit of balance so you're able to sustain this as a lifestyle and for lifelong, rather than every summer trying to get into the best shape of your life and then winter you put on all the fluff again. So when I say that, creating balance means doing weight training and cardio training and flexibility, and then incorporating a healthy eating plan. So don't go on these fad diets that you can only stick to for 10 days, or this juicing diet where you only drink juice for 10 days and you think you're going to lose all the weight. It's not sustainable. Nobody sticks to that. A fad diet never, ever works. And then Consistency and support. So if you can find somebody, a training buddy or a coach that will keep you accountable and keep you consistent, I think that will definitely help you get to that summer body.
It sounds like some solid advice. I mean, you're in the heat of it right now. You're preparing for a competition in December. What's your training looking like at this stage? What are some of the key things that are keeping you going and ready for December?
I am indeed. I have a competition on the 7th of December. I am currently a double wellness champ for NPC. My training has adjusted slightly. I'm a little bit more specific with my muscle group. So I split it up quite nicely where I do legs alone on a Monday with a bit of cardio. On a Tuesday, I'll do some upper body with some flexibility. On a Wednesday, I'll do, say, back and maybe a yoga class. So I've got a nice variety, but it is more specific. My training schedule is the same. Every single Monday, I'm doing the same thing. Every single Tuesday, I'm doing the same thing. And I only change it up as my body changes. As I mentioned earlier, your body doesn't respond in 2 weeks. You don't just have a six-pack. You need to see what's working. You need to do it for 4 to 6 weeks, and then you start changing it according to what is required on stage. Also, eating-wise, I have a lot less sugar now than I would in general. And I also eat the same thing every single day. It helps me keep consistent. So I eat cream of rice with protein in the morning, and then I have chicken, rice, and veggies for lunch. I have a little snack, and then dinner is generally a protein and some veggies and some fats as well.
I mean, a lot of people would find that quite an intense diet. I mean, do you find that sustainable, or is that where mind over matter comes in? If you want to get the results, you have to also be prepared to give a bit of sacrifice.
So I think definitely sacrifice, but that's why I said that works for me to eat the same thing all the time. It's not sustainable for the average Joe, but not everybody's getting on stage. And that's also why I mentioned earlier, do something that is sustainable. So in my case, if I wanted to keep going with this kind of a diet, I would have my breakfast, then I'd have chicken, rice, and veggies on one day. The next day I'd have ostrich, sweet potato, and veggies. And then, so you just change it up. You still have the basics, the protein, the veggie, and the carb, and the fat. A lot of people think cutting out a carbohydrate is going to help you. Definitely not. You need the energy to be able to train, to be able to sustain and train hard enough. My diet is not intense yet. I do think I've got a nice balance, and I generally keep that throughout. I say I am better at eating the same thing every day, but even when you are prepping, you don't have to eat the same thing all the time. As long as you've got the basics and your quantities, you should be good.
And talking about competitions, I mean, a lot of people always assume this comes with a lot of sponsorship and a lot of endorsements and all these things if you win or at least do really, really well. Is it difficult for athletes to get sponsorships for these kind of events, or is it rather a more challenging process?
I find a lot of the smaller companies are a lot more willing and able to assist athletes. So I find that the bigger companies or the bigger supplement giants are very, very difficult to attain a sponsorship from them. I'm not sure what the requirements are. I've been in the industry for over 10 years. I'm an elite personal trainer. I work with people that would buy this supplement. And like I say, I've been competing for over 10 years as well. And I still struggle to find a sponsorship. We've also now embarked on a new journey where we are looking at sponsoring some underprivileged athletes. And again, we just cannot get the bigger giants to help. A lot of the smaller companies are so lovely. They really are. They help us. They jump on board. They sponsor wherever they can. But again, the bigger companies, it's just really, really difficult to get a sponsorship. I find if you're not posting your naked butts all over social media, it's very difficult to get a sponsorship. And even at these bodybuilding shows, there is no prize money. There is no sponsorship. I'm not sure why. I'd love to know why. And a lot of my fellow athletes as well. Very difficult to get one.
Okay, well, listen, talking about sponsorships, I mean, you have got a walk coming up, an event coming up called the Spa to Spa Walk on the 18th of October, which you're also doing with Spa and Virgin Active. Tell us, how do people get involved, and what's the purpose of the event? I mean, it's obviously a great opportunity to maybe start burning some calories.
Yes. So we're trying to do a community unity walk. We go from Spa Olivedale to Spa Ballets, and then upstairs to the Virgin Active for an exercise class. Spa has jumped on board to help us with our feeding scheme. We feed 10 families every week, and we are also sponsoring 10 athletes, underprivileged athletes, whether it be soccer or bodybuilding or netball. It doesn't really matter. We're looking for 10 athletes to sponsor. Spa has helped us with this initiative, and the community walk is just to keep a nice group of people nice and healthy as we all embark on our summer journeys. The weather's getting better. So a community unity walk, and then Spa to Spa, because they have been our sponsors for this initiative that we've embarked on.
Well, we'll put all the details up on the website if anyone's interested to join that. You can get all the details on the Sandton Times website and check that out. Well, there you have it. Jaydene, an elite personal trainer at Virgin Active Collection and a double NPC wellness champion. Hopefully she gets to add another title to her name in December. And Jaydene, it's good to have had you on the Sandton Times Hour.
Thanks, Alex.
And that's it for another Sandton Times Hour for another week. And feel free to send through your questions or comments. You can email editor@sandtontimes.co.za. You can connect on social media at Sandton Times, or hop onto the website sandtontimes.co.za. Then, of course, there's the WhatsApp number 084 Sandton. That's 084 726 3866 for all your voice notes and text messages. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, and now also on YouTube podcasts. And join the growing digital community there. Thank you to all my guests who made time to be on the show this week, as well as the team behind the scenes bringing it all together. And a very special thank you to you for listening. And God willing, we'll do it all again next week.
That's it for this week. Thanks for listening to the Sandton Times Hour. And if you enjoyed it, be sure to share it.